Now, what's up, Yunus? Assalamualaikum.
What's up? Walaikum salam, man. What's up, Eric? Been a long time.
Uh, yeah, long time, man. This is I'm new to this. This is my first time doing anything like this, and
It's good.
what better way than with you, with a guy who knows many things.
Yeah, it's nice.
uh,
Thank you for inviting me to your talk.
yeah. So, what's going on? Hey, if I'm looking down a lot, I got my laptop down here, my camera's over here, so I
Yeah,
gotta look
you
at the
can.
screen.
Yeah, I know
But
you can look down, but I know you don't look down on me. Because we
no,
always,
yeah.
yeah, because we're always looking up.
So what we got going on? What we got going on?
Yeah, I think there's something on my mind, man. Like Indonesian politics, I've been watching it and I've been listening to it for a while. And since we both like got Indonesian heritage in us, I know we grew up in Houston, but I thought like we'll come into your podcast to talk about it a little bit. So,
Okay.
so
I
like,
this is my first episode. I don't know if there'll be an episode two, but we're just gonna have fun with it. And yeah, let's see where it goes from here.
okay, that's what's up, man. So, yeah, to me, Indonesian is a kind of like an anomaly, especially in a sense of like the political system, because
Okay.
there's like a they do like the same kind of democracy concept with like dividing between judicial, legislative, and and executive kind of situations. You can see they do have the same like three for separation of power like the U.S. does,
Okay.
but it got messed around by the U.S. too, right? Because like for example, up till 1999, we got that one president who's always been the president for like as long as
Yeah.
my grandparents were alive.
Suharto.
Yeah, so Suharto, right?
Yeah.
And then when he was toppled down with the whole like the movement of the students and stuff, the party of Indonesia changed from like three party to like 10, 20 party, 50 party. And then so it get just always get more like diluted.
Yeah.
And, and then obviously they're figuring it out, how democratic system work, from used to be like the green one is like the Muslims and the yellow one was like the Democrats or like some kind of capitalistic democracy, and then
Okay.
the red one was communist, but they rebrand themselves to be like for the people, like
Gotcha.
or stuff like that. But then that like after Suharto was gone, it just kind of went. They just gonna all kind of colors, no, just rainbows of colors, and then the party has to consolidate with each other to work to figure things out. But like the Constitution, the Undang-Undang Dasar, like the baseline of the law, has
Okay.
always been like ratified slash amended and added and stuff like that. So different president has been happening there from like Suharto, and then you got like one, two, three, four, like another couple president after.
Okay.
So but until I think like around during Obama time, like so Jokowi become president, and then Jokowi was the current president now. He's
Yeah.
serving his last second term.
I mean, they look
And
like they could
then
be brothers, but
they could be brothers and they have that kind of like the same kind of feeling of like, oh, he's the guy's gonna bring change. It's
yeah.
the guy didn't come from any political dynasty. The guy didn't come from like money. He's like a normal people. He served his term as he just kind of like, oh, it's gonna be nice. And he's not one of those like pompous guys. And to be fair, he did a lot of stuff. In, but lately, I think the fact that he does a lot of stuff, I think he wants to like continue on his legacy and his work. Specifically, is this thing called like Jakarta's move to IKN,
Okay.
Nusantara, which is like the whole
Is that the
capital
one
movement.
moving the capital to Kalimantan?
Yeah, go for
Also, is that?
Kalimantan to Borneo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that whole thing has been happening. There's been ups and downs and what have you. So, uh, let's see. So he essentially that's his legacy, and it just kind of drag on. And now his term is over this year, and there was an election earlier. The the thing that bothers me, and I really bothers some, it's like, what is that called? Like, kecemasan, like I'm just really concerned and worry is that during the election, at least as I was watching the election happening, there was number one, number two, number three.
All right,
Like, so
before we go on, did you vote?
now I'm American, right? I'm an American
Uh,
citizen.
Okay, okay,
So
so you're a citizen.
yeah, I'm a
Oh,
citizen. So I gotta work for the,
that's right. That's right. That's right. Hey
yeah,
man, this is the Fed right here.
yeah, I work for the Fed. So,
Man.
so I mean, like I look at the side notes. The U.S. politics is a mess. I just watched the debate. I just kind of
Oh
watched the debate.
man.
It's like
Grumpy
wow.
old man, right?
So it's annoying too. But then there's a silver lining in the two. Like, and I just kind of like the silver lining too. But then I can't really talk about it unless I explain what's happening in Indonesia and how it's actually like a reflection of what's happening here. If over here you see like a Roman is burning and an empire is struggling to figure out like, hey man, we're losing. Like like that
So
superpower is dying away. Indonesia is trying to be a superpower, but then in a way that's like, I
so
don't know, it
so
kind of makes me
my
mad.
my opinion with what's going on here in America, I know you're talking about Indonesian politics,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I've said it for years. I've said it maybe for over a decade. Is um, America right now, especially like the West in general, is modern day the Greco-Roman Empire,
yeah.
and a superpower or empire can only last for how long, right? So, how long did the Greco-Roman Empire, like Romans or Greece, how long did they stay in power for? Like hundreds of years?
I don't know, but eventually,
And
they
but
get
was it like
toppled,
a few couple hundred years? Was it? With
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
So I figured now with modern times, because of technology and everything, gets moved up, that what America's been a superpower for what 50, 70 years, maybe since the last what World War II. So, and because with all this modern advancement, that you can't last as long as before, right? So time is not on your side.
yeah. And I think when it comes to superpower, really, what people forget is that people glorify the idea of superpower because they fight for the people who have no power. And then it's like there's some kind of ideology, like somebody holding a flag. Like when a person wants to fight for that flag, it's because like they believe that there's something greater than just the flag. That there's an idea in it, right? And America was an idea of like the land of the dreams, land of this, but then slowly it changed to the like, I don't know, some kind of capitalistic society where people take advantage of each other. People getting
Well,
more.
with morals and ethics, I've lived here, my whole life, and once morals and ethics go down the drain, then your foundation is I'm pretty conservative, right? I didn't used to be conservative, so I think we're going off tangent here, but it's
For sure,
it's
for sure.
just I just feel like the foundation is cracking, and everybody's easily offended when someone stays on their beliefs, their belief system.
Yeah,
Right now I feel like there's a way where it's just so disrespectful to everybody because everybody easily offended. Like we're forced to accept a certain lifestyle. I mean, if you want to live that lifestyle, but don't force it on us to accept it. I mean, I don't agree with it, but you live the way you want to live, right? But don't shove it down my face.
right, right. And that's, I agree with that. And on top of that, though, there is a baseline of what people work in society. Like, and this is what I'm saying. Like right now, there's popping up, hedging back to Indonesian stuff. There's there's an event that happened where one of a comedian asked a question to like a pundit, like in a political show, like a political
Okay.
podcast. I was like, "Are you okay with political dynasty?" And then the pundit says, like, "Yeah, because I believe in agent value." And then so the guy, the comedian was like saying like, cut that stupid shit. Like, what is this? Like, why does this become agent value to be, legacy? And then another pundit was saying, well, it's human right to actually be able to vote or to run for president or run for something, even, regardless if your parents were presidents or not. And they kind
Okay.
of pointed out to like the Bush era, like the Bush senior Bush thing. So but all of these conversations like event based, right?
Yeah.
And the actual problem was that So like very quickly, not dismissing what you say because I'm going to go back to it. Like the current president Jokowi won twice, right? 5 year
Yes.
term, 5 year term, and he was against the General Prabowo, which was the guy that the conservative side of Jokowi's more liberal stance. At least that's what the perception was in the beginning. And then,
Okay.
but along the way, the second Prabowo got accepted into the cabinet of Jokowi, and he becomes like the army general, the cabinet of defense or Ministry of Defense or something like that.
Okay.
So, and then they kind of like consolidated and start working together for better of Indonesia. Which I mean, like obviously, sure, it's kind of strange, but
But did
for
it work
kind of
out?
no, it works. It works out. They do their own thing and they try to do their stuff. Like there's some problems here and there, but the problem is now that the next president election happened, Jokowi's his term limit. He's done.
Yeah.
So then
So in
Prabowo,
Indonesia, is it a 2-term limit?
yeah, two-term limit for
Okay.
president because
Okay.
they kind of have to. They don't want to create a Suharto because Suharto is multiple term limits.
Yeah, but
Like
what was it from like the 50s until like 97, 98?
99, 98. You know,
Because
it's
I
like so. It's
remember
like
97 or 98 was like Chrismon,
yeah,
Chrismon, the
that's
monetary
what you said.
crisis.
So
And
99 is where the riots and stuff happened.
okay.
So like let's assume like they're still doing 1960, 60 to 99. That's 30 years.
Yeah, that's almost 40. So yeah.
Yeah, which like that's like how many term limits? Like forget it, right?
It's almost borderline dictatorship. But I mean, he did get a lot done. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm taking away from what you were
No,
saying.
no, no. That's it. So let me finish that. So then eventually, jo- now Jokowi can't run for president no more. But Prabowo ended up running for president this year, and he bring in for his vice president candidate Jokowi's son. Like so, he brought in Jokowi's son. That in itself is kind of like okay, like sure. But the problem that people are having was that his son was not of age to hold that political office because
What's
Indonesia,
the age? Sorry.
I I don't know. I feel like over here it's like 40, right? Like we have to do like 35, 40 to be like president. You have to be like a certain age. You have to pass. Like I
Last time I
can't run for
remember was
president.
I think it was like 38, but I could be wrong. Last time
It
I
could be like
remember.
that. That's why like I
Yeah.
can't run for president, or also because I wasn't born here, and then like AOC and all these people like can't be president. Like young people can't be president or something. So because of all that, like you have to be like apa mapan dalam hidupnya gitu. So then Jokowi's son trying to run for vice president, and then the Supreme Court of Indonesia make an exception, saying like, okay, it's okay, law can be broken this time. So that's like you hear that, you're kind of like, what the heck, right? So
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, and then
I'm not surprised.
and then people start asking the president, the current president, right? His dad said like, yo, are you okay with your son running like this? And they was just like, well, I don't want to interfere with judicial system, the law, like the one who's going to interpret the law are the courts. But like he's acting like he's not president for the past 10 years. And he's like, oh, it's not really my call, and
Yeah,
he's not
I mean
acting like
it's
he's
in his favor. What is he gonna do?
right,
Like
right,
yeah.
right. So that's the one issue. And then obviously, as you find out, presidents have weight. Like they're this when they speak, they have weight. They do what it is, and they become more like bobot. And then okay, so then people like a lot of like Indonesians, influencers, podcasters, a lot of people so like they start choosing Prabowo then with Jokowi's son, and
Okay.
then and then eventually they won the presidency. They won the presidency. They would become president elect. Now on top of that, Jokowi have another son, so like the little brother of the vice president elect right now,
Okay.
and he is running for mayor or governorship or something like that. He's also a lot younger, and he's also doesn't fit the age. And then
How
the
old is he?
Supreme Court did it again.
How old is he? If you don't mind me asking.
Dude, he was like a young buck. I don't remember. Like in the early like 20s maybe. Like, maybe like a teenager. I don't know, like something. He looks young, but
Okay.
I guess Indonesian. We don't know. You don't know. Like I
Yeah,
look
yeah, yeah.
young.
We never know my age.
Oh,
Like, yeah.
but I just like a year ago or a couple months ago, I saw him like doing like some skits, like YouTube skits, and having fun and stuff like that. And suddenly, like he become the main person in the party. That and then that party put him in charge to become the Wapres. I forgot the name. I don't know what the singkatan that they use, but like hold on, they're doing it twice. They're doing it twice for the Suns, the same move. And what makes me really upset is that Indonesians are okay with it, and they're using excuses saying like it's an Asian value. We care about
So,
family.
so when you say Indonesians are okay with it, is it more so like the Indonesians that are in politics or the Indonesian like general population?
Okay, you're right. I don't know. I can't speak for our Indonesians, but
Okay.
what from what it looks like, because the one's gonna be in power is the same group of people, or at least the same kind of legacy from the past 10 years. It's like continuation. So like the office doesn't change,
Yeah.
right? Like so that there's a sense of like people kind of like doesn't want to talk bad about it, but they know it's kind of messed up. But they're like, we just do it haha humor, like warung kopi style. But it's and then it's like all right, like we don't want to like what are you gonna do about it? Like people voted for him. Like
Okay.
there was no like fraud elections or anything like that. It's not like Trump's kind of like decided to this like this is false and so
You know
but
that that that
there's a
remind me of somebody telling me in Indonesia, you know who's gonna win before the election.
yeah, they joke about that too. They like a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
joke, right?
Over here, it's all a show, and then whoever gets elected gets elected. But in Indonesia, you have the election, and generally you know who's gonna win the election before the election's over. Like they tell you who's gonna win, but we'll just have the election just for show.
Right, right. And there might be some truth to it. It's sad, but maybe not. Maybe there are people who like I don't really want this to be like this. I want it to be like a my vote matters. The things that I do matters. Like I know I want a better election, but the issue is just like here in the U.S. People focus solely on the president, like the president's election, that they don't pay attention to the lower elections, right? Like the district
Yeah,
elections and local
those
government.
are the ones that make the bigger difference is the local election, not
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
federal. But the federal is all the show, and then what determines your what goes on around you in crime and all stuff is the local elections,
yeah. The mayor, the
which
governors,
the which is the more
the
important that
districts.
affects you directly.
So because of the president of Indonesia kind of blatantly decide to disregard some of these things, I'm worried specifically that this become the norm again, right? It become the norm again for like RT to just like, all right, well, now I'm gonna have a son. Like, in fact, it's already in the news of a story about like a guy had an office, like a district office or something, and then
Okay.
he could run it again. He married he married like a younger wife, and the wife ran for that office and won it. And then it's like the same, like we tap our colleagues to kind of do stuff with us, right? Like
Yeah.
for content creation, for like collaboration, for
Yeah.
money, right? So then when you hold a certain office and you are able to move a certain money from people's money or taxes or like land right or signature, then you tap each other. And then like if that kind of collaboration happen, that's not normal in a place in a country who decided they want to be democratic. At least
And
it's
and
not supposed to be.
this whole reminds me. I remember I was in college. I think it was like 2001, and that was the whole protest, and it was the whole reformasi stuff like that. I'm here in America, and a good friend of mine, Indonesian, whatever, and we were just talking. And I was just like, what scares me about Indonesians in general is they always talk about they want change, and the youth are the ones who drive the protests and all that stuff.
Mm.
But at the end, every time when the youth gets older and they become in power, they get into power, they end up doing the same things. So history always repeats itself. Like for example, like I see people my age, for example, right? And they always revert, when they're growing up and before they have kids, and they'll say certain things, and then once they socialize with other Indonesians, whatever, they'll socialize with the elders. So I'm just talking in the general sense here.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
always revert to the old habits and stuff like that. And I think, when it comes to politics, that comes into play because it always reverts back to the old ways. I won't say old ways of thinking, but is in a sense it always like they once they come in a position of power, there's something that corrupts them because
yeah.
it's it's
There's some kind
it's
of
like
traps in there somewhere.
it's kind of like an ego trip, right? So when they're hungry, whatever, and they want change, whatever, but then once they get into power, there's kind of like a greed or ego that overcomes them to become what they hated.
Yeah, like you live long enough to be a villain, quote, and then or you die a hero, kind of quote, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So I
yeah,
don't know if
there
what I
might be
said
some
makes
truth.
sense, and I'm
No, no,
going
no. There's some
but
truth. There's some truth to it, but I
I
also
just
think that the trappings of politic on power or fame or money in general is the same trap. It's the same trap of shaitan that like it's just the same. Like for right
oh,
now,
here
like
comes the Imam Yunus.
no, I mean not like that, not like that. I mean like
No, no, I'll play it. I'll play it. I'll play it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, of course, we always have to be the leader of our family, but like I'm
Yeah.
talking about like for myself. Like if I'm right now, like, I'm thinking to myself like, all right, well, like I want to change, I want to do this, I want to do that. But once I'm in the position of power, I'm not certainly capable to say like, yeah, I won't change. If somebody throw something that I desire and this is what it is, and then if you have to do it my way, I don't know where the price is. I remember somebody says that if your price for bending your principle is not it's not zero, meaning or like if you don't if it's not priceless, meaning it's like your price like you can't be bought, then essentially people can still figure out how to give that. And so if your principle will not budge simply with any amount of money, with any amount of women or fames or whatever, then your price is death. Like somebody's gonna get rid of you.
So I that's funny that you said that. So I feel like, man, I don't know if I should bring this up in talks or whatever, but there's the conspiracy because Suharto's family had incidents happen to him after he was out of power. Like I don't know about like his wife dying and stuff like that. So
I don't know, but I know Suharto dies a lot more peaceful death than I would assume a tyrant dictator does. And people like make it like a reminiscent of nostalgic idea. Like Suharto's like, oh, it's like in our old days, and it's like it's weird to me. It's like it's like we're saying like, oh, I can't wait to go back to George Washington Day and forgetting that we're not white. You know, like the people say, I can't wait to go back to Suharto Day and forgetting that they're not part of the elites. Like it,
I mean, because I guess it's hard, right? You have to see the point of view because I've heard from I don't know where your family's from, but I heard
I'm
on
from Bandung,
I
Sunda.
mean I mean like social economic wise, right? So
Oh, oh,
I've
1%
heard
for sure. Because we're in
so
America.
I've heard from my I don't know if my family side or from Orang Kampung, right? And say like when Suharto was president, they were taken care of like as people who had like rice fields and stuff like that. Like everything was enough. And everything ever since he went out of power, it's been a struggle. So that's I could be wrong,
Perception.
but that's what I remember, huh?
That's the idea. That's what they tell
They
you.
were that's from what I remember from some older people, right?
Yeah.
So that's I guess the other side of the coin, right?
No,
The
remember. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that reminds
no
me of what's happening with in India with Modi. Like Modi's give like apa free beras gitu. They have like free beras untuk everybody poor, and then they have like his face in it, like rice, like bags of rice and his face in it. But then at the same time, he's like prosecuting Muslims. Like so, he's like, and then empower like Hindu nationalists to just disregard like religious freedom. So like it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting. It's very interesting how like dictators and leaders trying to cater to the baseline of majority by giving them the basic, and then like
Well, I don't
it's
know if it was giving them the basic, but they're saying that it was just enough. Like they were able to survive on with their income and stuff like that, right? So
yeah,
business was good and stuff like that. But yeah,
stability maybe.
yeah, it was
Like,
just stable as a country. It just kind of reminds me of like Iraq, right? When Saddam was in power, it was just stable until America came in and did their whole thing, and
and
that's a whole nother story.
that's the argument of the person now like okay with Prabowo become president and Jokowi's son because like hey, I mean it's you know things are going to be stable because not it's not going to have a new president, a new cabinet, new idea, and mess things up. So like it's
I,
okay, it's like
I,
it's not like and then like they got to be friendly with businesses and businesses will show up and so I don't particularly I think there's something flaw in the logic of assuming that stability can come when we depends on egotistical leader because at
yeah,
the end of the
no, I
day
agree,
their
100.
yeah their needs it happens to have intersect with your need, okay, you're okay. But then when it's not, when your needs are no longer the same, then you're not gonna be stable. So the best way is actually having an actually good, just leadership that's like having good proposal for people. And like, and I don't know, I, it's really makes me sad and mad and concerned and worried that as United States falling down, Rome is burning because people are trying to find more equitable justice for all, run by the youth. You start seeing Indonesia thinking like their youth getting more disfranchised and feeling like they don't matter, like their voice don't matter, even because like it's always the same thing, just different leadership taking the reign, just different kings and queens deciding to be like somebody in power, and all these old people don't die; they just keep existing, right? So like that sentiment even here, like Indonesian in America, that's it, like I don't really have anything to say. I don't really have anything to contribute to the Indonesian community. And what's the worst part is, like, I grew up thinking that a Western value is very much individualistic. It's all about me, 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 and it's in some process it is like that. But then when like social justice change is being happening, then me take a back step and say like, hey, that's messed up. What you do, stop, right? But then here we got Indonesian who I thought like in my mind, Asian value means like gotong royong, togetherness, and like being just in overall just being like care about community, like community centric, not individualistic centric. But then you now eventually people are saying like, well, it's okay. It's their right to go run for president. It's their right to whoever vote, and then just have to worry about yourself first. And then they're turning into more egotistical.
I
Sangat
mean,
sangat sedih melihat orang Indonesia lebih lebih egois
I mean,
dibandingkan orang-orang egois yang I see here.
you can see that into the lower level as well. Like you can even see that in our if you don't even have to look into the governments. You can even look into our community itself. The people a lot of times that stand up or talk for the community are probably one of the biggest egos out there, right? And that's just and then gimana ya like so on a smaller level like you'll see people won't say anything just because gak enak, right?
Yeah,
Like you have our people like okay yeah biarin aja they want to do that gak enak,
yang
but
nggak enak, sukan untuk bicara ya.
yeah
So,
yeah and
yeah.
and and then that's just if you do that on a small level on the bigger level it's magnified, right? So I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but I'm just saying
No, no.
this. That's just
What
our
you're saying is,
culture,
yeah, you're
you
saying
know.
that the community like let go
They
Uh,
let the people who want to talk, even though if it's not in the best interest. And then if let's say somebody who wants better goes against that, they'll shame the person who's trying to do everything that's better
yeah,
because
that,
it's
yeah,
uncomfortable
yeah,
because it's like, oh, this is strange, right? You know, Al Ghuraba. I'm kidding.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's strange,
What is that? Like
right?
this idea of like you're doing something that's new that we're not used to, and we're actually really worried and concerned that we're no longer in control, and it's kind of scary what you're doing. But
Yeah,
then instead of like saying it that outright, they just like shame the other person, saying like, shame on you. You should just sit down and be quiet, be a good Indonesians.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I got you. That happens. Yeah, community thing can be like that, and
And
that's
so,
how it
and I'm
feels.
I'm thinking that's how it goes into politics, into a bigger level. You know,
Because the
I mean, that's
stakes
just my
higher.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, the stakes higher. You can see the micro and then the bigger, bigger. Yeah, man. I want. That's just my. It making me sad, honestly. That well, actually,
So,
not sad. It's the mix of angry, frustration, and just bewilderment. Like how? Why are we okay with this? Like I remember back in the day when halal food is subpar and expensive. I remember the days like where like
now just
trying
everything
to
is
be
expensive.
yeah, anything branded Muslim is expensive and it
Yeah.
doesn't taste that good. And then when people talk about it, like especially like in the early like 2000s, and then people say,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's okay because we got to. This is the way it is." Like, why are we settling with mediocrity? Like what? And that's what I thought about this now with Indonesian politician, with American politician. The politicians are gonna politic themselves in and
Yeah.
outside of
It,
office.
it it's all theater, theatrics. I really think what it really comes down to is habits. Um, in my opinion, it's just Indonesians they don't want to get rid of old habits, right? So they can protest all they want, but they'll protest more than do what it takes to change themselves.
Mhm.
Like, like in order for your situation to change, you got to change yourself, right? Like, for example, when it comes to, I'm going off track here, but when it comes to finance, um, a lot of people just settle, like, especially like orang kampung, they're very religious, but rezeki, tergantung Allah. But
Mhm.
you still got to put in your work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I think we just comes down to habits. Uh, outside looking in, I've never lived in Indonesia. Um, I've I've always heard about Indonesian politics. My dad, worked at Kajari,
yeah.
but outside looking in, Indonesia doesn't have an identity, right? They don't know what they want to be, cause like you'll have so and so here, like whatever. Um, let's just go to like everyday stuff. Like something happens, and then and I'm not trying to talk bad about the Majlis or ulama. They get involved and they give a ruling.
Mhm.
So are we a democratic? I mean, not are we? Are they a democratic nation or are they an Islamic nation?
Like, okay.
And so my thing is, there's no identity of what they want to be because it's always pulled in so many different directions. Um, and then when I visited Indonesia in 2022, I saw a lot of red flags in terms of when it coming to the economy and stuff like that. So I can go into details of my opinion, but my opinion is like, doesn't mean anything.
Man, that's what we're here. We're gonna talk about it. You never know because the idea of like putting something like this is not
Hmm.
to like convince other people to like your idea, but just to find others who actually think the same. To like, hey, you're not alone. Like you're not thinking in out of vacuum because one of the tricks of the devil is making you feel like you are the only one that's
Yeah,
suffering uniquely yours, and then you become so despondent and helpless, and you don't want to move forward, or you didn't want to look at people and your peers because of how they don't understand. Like maybe they don't specifically understand your struggle,
yeah.
but my struggle. But then the general discomfort should be said somehow or the other. Like. But anyway, I want to add it to what you said. Like I want to add to what you said about like Indonesians have identity. I think that's half. There's half point in there. And I think the additional is that their identity, they're not proud of their own identity, because there's nothing wrong of say being democratic, Islamic, Asian, rich, or whatever. Like all this subjective word that we can put ourselves into a country,
Yeah.
but there's no sense of thinking that this is a valuable thing. We don't. A lot of Indonesians, especially watching it, like growing up around Indonesians, there's a perceived sense of inferiority when we hang out with each other. It's like I was fine here trying to be American and trying to be the only Southeast Asian guy, and then immediately another Asian, and he coming along. Wait, you're from where? From Java? From Sumatra? Like, oh, now I'm no longer special. I don't really want to hang out with you, and I'm trying to like, I don't want to think that I'm a sellout for being or like trying to be American or something. It's like, but it's a very strange dynamic. And then you go to Indonesia and people say like, oh, you're like, you forgot the country, you forgot why you never come back. What do you mean? It's like I've never been it. Like it's like sometimes the way people or like the constantly talking about like, oh, Lucy enak, kalau gua sih begini, like like, oh,
Yeah,
Lucy
and
enak,
and
kalau
and
gua
and they don't know the struggle that we go through over here.
right, right. And same
Right,
like
right.
people that
And
have struggles, right? I mean, I'm
all
not
they
saying
see
like
is the dollar and don't
yeah,
understand.
like but the living expense and the cost of living
Yeah.
and all kind of things could be there. Like I just talked to a guy recently, just a couple of days ago. He went to Lombok and he's like, he's from the U.S. Like he's a black guy. He went to Lombok and he's excited. And then when he come, and was telling me like somebody in Lombok wanted to go to the U.S. Like, can you take me with you, Mister? And they were just like, why do you want to go? And just like, oh, because you make so much more money. I was like, no, man, I'm very struggling and living out here. Like, and I'm
Mm,
coming out here to Lombok, and I feel like maybe I should move here because of like my money goes further out, but also on top of that, you guys living in paradise. And then,
yeah.
but then the guy was just like, what paradise? Like, and this is like, I got no money. So like, it's really, yes, economical issue could be a thing, but another thing is like, I think people really got bought into this idea of capitalism. Like, there's
Well, I
like,
mean, because they see it all over social media, right? They see it all over social media. They see it on entertainment industry, and like, ooh, they see the old pictures of like what Beverly Hills, those the
yeah,
old type of scenes of
yeah,
man. I mean, heck, they even see like Crazy Rich Asians, and they see like, ooh, is But part of that is also, I mean, how do I say it? It's hard, right? Because I spoke to my wife. Like, it's easy for us to say all these things, but give or take that, if we were in that same situation, we'd probably be the same way
yeah. Probably want to leave
because
with a better
because
life somewhere.
we're limited to what we know, and I think the problem is not wanting to get uncomfortable to get out of a certain situation.
Yeah, yeah, and I think because also Indonesia are mostly Muslim country, they use like beautiful ayat, things like you know, "Wa in ta'udu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha." If you try to count the blessing of Allah, you will never be able to count it. Like I say, Alhamdulillah, there's so many things of blessing, but instead of like making that into a reflection of like, Alhamdulillah for what I got, let's just keep striving for more and do what we can. It
Yeah,
was used to like to pacify the conversation. Just shukuri whatever you got. Just say Alhamdulillah what you got. Just sit here and just don't move the ripples. Like it's almost there's a fear of doing something different than what community expect you of doing. Or like what's it? Like that Moana song, like about like here comes the coconut, like
yeah,
the trees, like and no one's leaving, nobody leaves, like everybody got their place, and it's like one wanna try to go outside, everybody's no, don't go. It's like, but then that's what saved the people at the end of the day, and
it's just like oh, sorry, go ahead, my bad.
that's what it is.
It's just a fear of change, I guess. It's like fear of what if. Indonesians, from what I hear, it's always, they're big on fear. They
Yeah,
they're big on fear, and if it's one little chance that it's risky, they avoid it. But at the same time, if they see a chance there it's easy or fast money, they're like, okay, this will help me get in a situation, but it'll end up hurting them more in the long run instead of doing something else that might be a little how would I say it? Okay, let's for example, let's say if somebody I know has a business, right?
Mm,
Or they want to do a business.
mm.
The business having a business, getting a profit is not easy. It's not like get rich overnight.
Right. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
They'll run a business for 2 or 3 months, be in the red, and be like, okay, I should have never opened a business. But if they had just been patient and just set out a system, they would, be probably
Yeah.
successful. But then they'll be like, okay, ooh, the lottery. Let me put money in the lottery, or let's say
Judi online, like
juvie
gambling online.
online. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I heard that's a big thing over there.
Big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and they'll waste their money on that instead of trying to put in the work on building something.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
if that makes sense, right?
no, it
Like,
makes sense because I give money to my cousins and friends and family members to start their business all the time with all like super legit stuff and signature, whatever. When the business is skyrocketing, it's like, oh, that's nice. If what they forgot is to pay me. And then when they to pay me back, right? Whatever, like if I'm investing or and then if the business doesn't work out, what they do, they don't pay me either. So like it doesn't really matter if what I invested in Indonesia works or not. It's never go
so
back because they just assume like, Yunus doesn't need it. It's in the US.
so
And it's like, what
so yeah, so what I've come to grips is anytime um somebody asks to borrow money from Indonesia, I just take it as sodoko. I'm never seeing that money again. Because if I'm expecting that money to be returned, I'm expecting to be disappointed. So if I can't manage to lose that money, I'm not gonna let them borrow the money if I cannot.
yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. But
But because that's
I
that's
feel
just
sad
the
that our
mindset.
relationship really only costs this much. That's all it is.
That's the case because it's always when it comes to it, it's because you're family. So it's always gonna be viewed as one sided. Okay, he can get it back. He doesn't need it. He's Enoch over there. You get what I'm saying? So I come to terms to where like, okay, if I can let them borrow the money in a sense, can I afford to lose it? And if I can afford to lose it, then okay. If I can't, then I'm just gonna be like I can't. That's it.
Yeah.
Now the other side of that is they're always gonna try to guilt trip you, especially family members. Oh, kamu nggak sayang sama keluarga kamu kayak gini. I'm like, okay, you're not kasihan with me. Like, you don't know what I'm struggling with, like with my
Are
bills
you
over
not,
here. You
are
know
you
what I'm
not siding with me? Like, like,
saying? Yeah, like don't play that guilt trip on me. You don't know, man. I gotta pay for this. I gotta pay for that, and it just it's just like, man, it's so easy to just say like play the guilt trip card. That's just a common thing with Indonesians in general. They just love the guilt trip. If they don't get their way, it's always, oh, kamu gak kasihan. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. It sounds like it's like we're talking badly about Indonesians right now. People who have no context about Indonesian, who always seems like Indonesians super nice and kind and
Oh,
mashallah,
oh,
right? Like,
oh, oh. They're super nice to non-Indonesians. But with sama-sama Indonesians, oh my God. Like it's the mask is off. You know?
that's
It's like they'll smile in your face and then when they get into the whatever gathering, they'll talk about your back. Like it's disgusting. It's nasty.
yeah. What was that? That's a joke, right? Like the Indonesian doesn't talk back to you; they just talk back behind you, kind of
Oh
thing.
man. I don't get it, like, man, and
I
people are
wonder if
probably gonna hate me.
I wonder if that's because Indonesian that we grew up here, like or like the one we see in the U.S. Or is it like Indonesian in general is like that? But I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I so my take is it's acceptable in Indonesia, so that's why it's never been a big deal. But it's not a common thing here. So um and especially since the Indonesian community is pretty small, everybody knows each other. So it's amplified.
Mm.
When you're in Indonesia, orang-orang sama. Everybody does it, but it's not like everybody, you know, gonna go into the same circle. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's not
okay.
like it doesn't like over here. Let's say it's the same five friends. Over there, it's gonna be like 50, 60 people or whatever,
Mm.
or it's the whole kampung. You're just used to it. Everybody just knows what everybody's
And everybody kind of look like
business.
each other too, right? Everybody look like
Yeah.
each other. They speak the same language, so there's not
Hmm.
like a lot of like needs of the differences. So being
Yeah.
different looks funny. Well, maybe it's different now. In like a big country, like a big city, maybe like a slightly different. But I don't know. Like you go to the U.S., like in some boondock town in the South, like everybody looks white, and you know, and I walked in and everybody just staring at me like I'm like some piece of meat. Like it's kind of worrying to me. It's like, are you guys trying to screw me over or trying to screw me? Like
or, or,
what's
or probably the
happening
same
here?
thing. They
Like,
probably
well,
they
my
probably have the same thought
God.
about you. Like, hey, is he trying to scam us coming into our city?
All right, all right.
Yeah.
So
So,
there's
but
that. And then on top of that, the opposite of that with Indonesian is that there's a perception of colorism and the colonized mentality of like white people are the
it's
best.
white people's the best. If you're dark, no, you're ugly.
Yeah,
To be
and
attractive, you have to be light
don't you
skinned.
think that's really because of the
It's an
U.S.
inferior.
perception for so long?
I don't even think it's the U.S. I think it's just from European colonization,
Yeah,
right?
the colonized.
It's
Yeah,
it's. it's I mean,
but
even
the
that, and
Hollywood
at the
stuff, so, bro.
at the same time, it's also. I mean, it's also the Asian side of it. Like, who's glamorized on TV right now? Who's big on TV in Indonesia right now? It's
Fair
like K
skins.
drama,
Yeah, yeah.
like the Koreans, the Chinese, and I'm not talking bad about them or anything, but that's just it's an inferiority complex that we have.
And yeah, that's all I want to add. Like, I don't think Indonesia doesn't have an identity. They just feel shameful of their own identity. Like,
No, I disagree with that. I
oh
I
yeah,
think Indonesian has one of the biggest egos there is, because if you see them, like if you talk to them, it's like there's a lot of pride. I'm Indonesian, or Indonesian's the best, whatever. But
oh yeah,
they've never even
they
been
are Malaysian and Singaporean, even all the yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it's just it's more of an inferiority complex in terms of what they see as beautiful and stuff like that.
Mm. Okay, okay. So yeah, that's complex, bro. That could be another podcast days. We have like episode 2 and 3.
Yeah, we got off tangent. We were talking about politics, and all of a sudden we were talking about culture, because
But that's what it is.
here's the
Politics is college culture. Like,
here's the thing. Ever since I was growing up, I've always heard, and I never quite understood it, is we're very divisive when it comes to our own people. And what I mean by that is you always hear people like, okay, itu orang Sunda, orang Jawa, orang. So in a sense, okay, we're Indonesian, and then they go into the regional aspect of hati-hati sama orang. I'm just throwing names out there, orang Manado or whatever and stuff like that, because the differences of regions, right? So, and
yeah,
I feel like there's a breakdown to where they hate each other, or we hate each other, or trying to find some way of how we feel superior to somebody else.
just to make us feel better,
Yeah, and
or
I
just
and
to
I
make
feel
them
that's
feel
done
better.
on like the lower level, right? Because a lot of times the people who act like that are, let's face it, they're not the most brightest people, in my opinion,
Mhm.
that play that card.
I I think they might be smart too, but they might just be afraid. Like I think a lot of time when a person wants to change themselves or change others or change community or doing something meaningful, they have to be smart and they have to be brave. And a lot of time, and at the same time, they have to happen at the same time. Like your bravery is not like foolishness or just like trying to attack, but you're smart and intellect and calculating the matter doesn't mean you're just gonna sit back in the back and just living a normal life. I think a lot of people who achieve their dreams are people who can be smart and and brave at the same time. People who can change the world, or all these things are like they're the accumulation. So and the opposite of that, people who are not doing anything with their life, they feel some type of way. They might be smart sometimes. They might be brave sometimes. They might be brave to commit like bad stuff. They might be smart in thinking like, oh, okay, I'm better than this and that. And then what happens is like the because it doesn't happen at the same time, it turns into like looking down on others so I can feel better, finding pleasure in like people failing, like like finding like I don't know, anxiety, arrogancy, or envy, and all of these things. I think happens because a person doesn't want to recognize like, hey, I gotta be brave enough to realize that maybe this is wrong, or like I gotta like over contemplation. I don't think there's not a lot of apa cerdas, right? In Indonesia kan ada cerdas dan pintar. Like kepintaran,
You're
like
gonna have to clarify that for me.
oh, okay, okay. An Indonesian word for smart is pintar and cerdas, but cerdas is more like street smart or like street
Like
savvy,
common
or like
sense.
could be the common sense, but like
Okay,
more wise, like wisdom. But it's not like,
gotcha, gotcha.
but
Yeah,
less
okay.
than wisdom. It's like understanding of what's going, like cerdas, like
Self-aware I get. I think I get what you're trying to say.
smart, right? And then another word of that is cerdik. Cerdik is also smart, but cerdik is more like know when to wiggle your way out of problems. Kind of like, or cerdik in a way is like, or know how to get yourself into something, get something you benefit and run out. It's like smart in
Kind of
the
like
sense of
problem
like,
solving.
like
Kind of.
yeah, that could be that, or it could be
Okay.
like smart thief, or like somebody who's super smart and know how to get away with it. Like
Okay.
so like, and there's a couple more words, but the fact that there are multiple words of smart, it's also like seems that they're smart, but when it comes to brave, there's only one in Indonesia, at least that I know of. Like bravery is, you know, berani,
That's the word that
right?
came to my mind, Briny. Yeah, yeah.
Berani. Like, but that's it. Like, and berani, it's almost sounds like benar,
Okay.
berani, right? Which is right. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so like so that means like you're
Correct.
being
Yeah,
courageous because you want to be righteous, so almost, right? But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I don't see a lot of brave Indonesians in my lifetime. Like to
I, I,
just
w- I,
say,
w- I mean
I,
that.
I mean, maybe I have to think that through. Actually, that's
I
like a
mean, because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have like global brands like Indomie, um, Abe said, all that stuff. I would say it's few. It's very few. Um, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But I just think there's very few.
yeah.
Because if they weren't brave enough, then you wouldn't have some of these global brands coming out of Indonesia even recently. Like if you ever watch, I know I'm going astray here. If you ever watch K dramas, almost every K drama show has Kopiko in there, which is an
Yeah.
Indonesian brand, and you'd have to be pretty brave to be able to put that type of product or branding out there to be
Or this lady,
successful.
I just saw in the reels today. Like her painting is being sold in Singaporean art museum, in New York museum, and she's like Indonesian.
Okay,
Or, and then it's like $3 million, $3.8 million, and it's sold out like 95% of his painting, her painting all the time. And
man.
then
I mean, a lot of the young people, I would say, are pretty brave. The only thing that, like I said, is when they come into power, will they change, right?
so, yeah, a lot of people,
Like
a lot of young folks are brave, and I'm just worried that they're not smart enough to navigate the space.
I think it's a culture clash, culture clash right now. Cause I don't know, like I've seen a lot of some young podcasts and some older podcasts out of Indonesia, and I can see the passion that they want for change in Indonesia. And the only thing, the common theme that I see among between those two, they're chindo.
Yeah, that's right. What the
Like
heck
you,
is that?
I
Like,
mean,
I love my Indonesian folks, but like, why is it the minority is the one that's like trying to advocate changes? Why? What is the orang Jawa, Malaysia, Indonesian, like Malay, Indo, that's like, hey, this is wrong. We shouldn't treat minority this way. The heck?
Because the thing is, it's 2024 and they still want to go back to the days of like 1970s, most of them.
It's just like Trump supporters, man. They want to go
You
back
know,
to. It's the same. It's
and
the same sickness of like thinking that we are the victim when you are the perpetrators.
and so my thing is you guys want Indonesia to maju, but how can you maju if you always want to bring it back? You get what I'm saying? How are you gonna advance if you always want to talk about the past? And it's just like me going back to another trait. Like it's always like that one person who has a friend who's always trying to be better and move forward, but they're always reminding them of what they did in the past.
Yeah,
And
the people
it's just
they
we're
think
full
in the
of people
past. They
that are
think in high
crabs in the
school.
bucket, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think we summarized a lot of concern we have about Indonesia or
I mean I have a
Indonesia
lot of
in
concerns,
general.
you know, and it's just it's it sounds like I'm bashing my people, but it's just the criticism I have. Like, man, we just need to move forward, and if you really want Indonesia to move forward as a whole, right, and better for I have kids, you have kids, they have to be able to adapt and not be scared to change what's wrong instead of accepting what's wrong.
Yeah, but on top of that, also like able to move forward is able to be accountable of the things happened in the past. You need to be able to own
Indonesians do
up.
not like accountability. I'm telling you this.
You need to
Indonesians
own up.
hate accountability.
You need to own
Accountability.
up on the things
Oh
you've
my!
done instead of keep moving forward. Like, yeah, like, nah, let's keep
I
going. No, man.
I
People are
have distanced
traumatized and
myself.
hurt.
I have distanced myself from a lot of people who cannot hold themselves accountable. Like if I cannot hold the people around me accountable, I can't hold myself accountable.
We
Like,
gotta hold some people accountable, and not
hey,
just people, but the government accountable. Like,
and but it starts if the people can't hold themselves accountable, how are they gonna hold the government accountable?
because hasibu qabla yuhasib. Hold yourself
Sorry.
accountable before you're being held accountable by Allah.
So
Right?
yes, so the people got to hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
Okay, but Indonesians do not like to be held accountable. I and especially elders. If anything, and I'll apologize. I do not mean disrespect to the elders. It's just like something that's ingrained in them. It's anytime something goes wrong, it's always somebody else's fault, and they never look at what they could have done differently
Mm.
and fix that. And I've always come to a situation where something happens, and the person is like, "Well, that person should have told me this," and that person told us that. And the scary part is, I've seen some people, their kids act that way. It's like, "Well, you didn't tell me, you didn't tell me," and I'm like, man, you gotta learn of okay, mistakes were made. What can I do better to fix this so that it doesn't happen again, instead of being quickly to point the finger at somebody else.
Yeah, man. I think what you just said just take the wind out of my life because it's so much truth to it. Like,
I apologize.
no, because
But
even I thought to myself like, yeah. So thinking about all the things that people are kind of, but then even me, like sometimes it's hard for me to hold myself accountable of the mistake that I do. And then I'm just like, and I recognize how hard it is to actually do the right thing by the people that you kind of hurt. Like, hey, my bad. That's not something like I should have done, so on and so forth. And then we can move forward, right? Because like that sometimes like even I gloss over the idea of like sorry, so come, and the whole thing. And I thought to myself like if that's hard for me who's trying to be quote unquote self aware of my own like shortcoming, like I'm just like, man, I wonder what happened to all these people who never got therapy.
I mean that's going to open up to something else. I mean,
I'm
I
kidding.
I
I'm kidding.
I
Like,
mean,
I'm
no,
just
no.
like,
I'm just saying, like, we can own up to there's another stage where people own up to what they're doing, but there's also people who tend to say sorry but don't change.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's and that's I've seen that a lot. It's just like our people just it's always sorry, sorry, but the same mistakes are made over and over again. And I think I think that's just people in general. You know, that's just not Indonesians. But and they're just something that needs to be worked on.
sounds like my kids are super Indonesian then, because they said sorry all the time and they just keep doing it again.
So either either they're super Indonesian or I don't know.
It's superhuman. Maybe that's why you have to.
Nah, they're just kids. They're just kids. I'm talking about like in adult aspect. You know, because kids are still learning. They're still trying to learn their ways in the world, and and as a parent, you know, all we can do is just be supportive and try to connect to them and see what they're going through. Because being a kid now isn't the same as how it was when we were kids.
That's true.
So we can only tell them so much, but at the same time, the biggest thing that we can do as parents is listen. Because sometimes they just need to talk to where they can um, let them know, let you know what they're thinking. And when I mean you, I mean us, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just speaking in general sense, but
yeah.
I think I don't know about you. I never had that. I never um, whenever I would try to address my concerns, my feelings to my parents, it was always just shrugged off, or you don't know what it's like to be us when we were kids. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't know what it like it's like to be you as kids. But at the same time, they didn't know what I was like to be me as a kid, right? So there has to be some sort of understanding, and I think um, being the way things are right now, we have a generational gap, and then we have a big cultural gap, and that's the biggest challenge that we have right now.
Yeah, yeah. Man, Allah Mustaan, man. Allah help us when it comes to this. Because sometimes the problem seems bigger than one person can do. But then that's what one of the reasons why this kind of podcast exists, right? Or like
Hmm.
what kind of conversation, like, to be able to kind of like say what you want to say and then what resonate with people resonate, or if not, if anything else, you get another person listening to you. I think it's
Hmm.
important. Um, as long as there's no such thing as like niat jahat, like some kind of like guilt, uh, bad intention, trying to
Yeah.
like like people argue with bad faith or whatever, or like in the in the in the language of the court and the justice court is mens rea, and
Okay.
that's what the this was
Man,
supposed to be.
you said that it just reminded me of Legally Blonde, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like it's mens rea is the next like special that the comedian Panji Pragiwaksono was trying to set up next year. And then it's the
Okay.
idea, and this was supposed to be like, tell me what you feel about, what do you feel anxious about Indonesia? What's your concern about Indonesia? So respond to his like, whoever the best one can actually be flying out there for his special in Senayan, Jakarta, like a VIP list with two people, like a
Okay.
two tickets kind of situation. So I thought like, you know what? If I'm just posting myself talking, it it's just pretty boring. Like let me reach out to another Indonesian podcaster who we've won. We can just go to Indonesia and see how it's like to be like part of the 1% elite. Like I don't know. Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he does that all the time. Like he does like kind of things like that. But that's why I've sent you that link and try to get you to do this
Okay.
podcast with me. So
But no,
yeah,
man, this was pretty good, man. We should probably do this more often. I got a lot of things on my mind, man, and it's I just think things have got to change, man. Like it's just
yeah,
I'm just tired of the old ways of just going on, and you know we can improve if we're just staying still
that's true.
and
That's true. Maybe
accept it.
we should like do this more often, and then just tackle one problems at a time. And if we don't have solution to it, we just at least highlight the issue. So like, look,
At
this
least we
is an
could just
issue.
vent, you know?
Yeah, okay, bet. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, yeah,
Because people want to be heard,
yeah.
and it's nice to be heard. It's nice to talk, and especially with people. Yeah,
Just kind of like I have issues with the Indonesian masjid in America, but
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah,
It's funny because our issue probably very different, but then we treat it the same somehow at the end of the day.
yeah. But I've come to grips on what the Indonesian masjid in America is meant for. It's actually meant to make it easier for people from Indonesia who come here to be able to find a common place to go. It's not meant for the future of the Indonesian community here
Yeah,
because
I
it's not meant for my kids to go there. Like for me, I can't connect with the Indonesian masjid here. Like I go to another masjid that could understand my concerns and problems. So once I come to understand it, like okay, I'm okay with it because no matter what, they're not going to agree with my views because my views are totally different than them. The imam there, most of they're going to bring in is 90% of the time is going to be imam somebody from Indonesia that can understand the main congregation of that masjid. The only masjids that I know that have the youth involved is probably one in Dallas
yeah,
and Honest in LA. But other than that, it's just older imams from Indonesia who don't know what it's like to live here, who don't know the problems of the Indonesian youth here. I mean, can I say they're doing a better job of it? Yeah, I mean they're trying to get kids to come and play basketball, all that stuff. Even like Masjid Istiqlal right now, they recently are trying to do like a career
yeah,
thing,
like
career
some kind of
fest,
electric stuff. Yeah,
which is cool. It's just cool. I really wish they would do more, but I just have to understand that what they're built for is for the Indonesian like Indonesians who come here from Indonesia, not really for the future of the Indonesian youth here.
that sounds like an episode too, man. We should start off immediately. Like, what's wrong with Indonesian masjid in America? It's
I
da 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 da. Like,
yeah. And man,
man,
hey,
I have a lot of things to say about that, and I'm just trying not to open another can of worm because I feel like I'm hurt all the time in the Indonesian community, but then I still going back because I feel like that's my people, and I
yeah,
gotta
I
go.
mean, like I said, I'll say a lot of things, but in at the end, it's just we all just want better, right? But
Yeah,
at the same time, I feel like the people who don't want better are the people who are at the top that can control everybody. Be like, and you know, the people that likes to talk about people's lives all the time. So,
yeah. Hey man, let's.
like, I don't understand how I'm not even involved in the Indonesian community and my name could get brought up. I'm like, uh, why? I don't go to no gatherings. I don't stick my nose somewhere.
I'm so involved in the Indonesian community, but
Like I'm at peace not being around them. And I feel. For the kids, I don't know if the kids. I mean, I would say the younger generation. I like like I have lots of love for like your brother's age generation, and I see a lot of promise with them, and
what
I
about
hope
my
they
age?
can bring,
What about
huh?
your age? We can do it too.
My
Before,
age,
before my
man.
brothers, they were us.
The people my age are the same, have become the same as the people before us, right? And they're the ones most guilty of gossip. That's my sense. So the people my age, like, oh, so just to be clear, I'm 42. If so the people my age are probably one of the most guilty out there. They don't want change. They want to
They
the leech want
assimilate. They just want to take over the power from later on, right?
they don't even
Sounds like it.
assimilate, man. They're like, man, tell me why. Like, never mind. I'll leave that for another day. I'm just
Let's do another episode of this, man. This is good enough. My head is already like enough venting for the day.
I'm sorry, man, but
What,
yeah, yeah.
what
Just
you have like a closeout tag? Do you do?
I don't know, man. You have one? You think you can come
Should
up with
probably
something?
come up with it.
Oh man. So I'm gonna shut my yap, and we do another one after this. This is Eric Talks closing his mouth.
Oh, nice.